Thank you guys for joining us today and being a part of the Roundtable, the Tis the Season Family Ministry through the holidays. And I think probably some other people may join on here, and so we'll just keep going along with it. But my name is Corey Liebram, and I am the Youth and Family Ministry Specialist here with Texas Baptist, and I am hosting this along with Jennifer Howington. Jennifer, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
I'm Jennifer Howington. I'm the Childhood Ministry Specialist here at Texas Baptist. So glad to be here today and glad to be able to talk through some ideas that we can do for our churches and our families. So thank you, Corey, for allowing me to co-host this with you.
Yeah. So thank you. We've got some people that we've already asked to share a little bit, and we've got some actually pictures of the events that they've done in the past. We're also recording this, and I've said that in our youth ministry roundtables to be on your best behavior. So I think with children's ministry, you guys are a little bit safer, but Jason, he comes from a youth ministry background, so I just needed to air that out there. But more so, like the benefit of these roundtables that will go long after this. People that couldn't join us this afternoon will be able to post this, and they'll be able to see this, especially in the next few weeks when they start thinking about, oh, what are we going to do for Christmas? And they realize we'd already done it in September. It'll be there. So, I know we've talked about some of these things already, but I think it's important that we'll be putting these out there and people can go back and look at these in the future. So Jennifer and I were talking about just kind of a framework to think about when we think about how we do family ministry, whether it's in youth ministry or whether it's in children's ministry. And so we came up like the good Baptist that we are. We came up with 3 points, and they all have P's. And so I'm going to let her, she's going to explain the first two, and then I'm going to come back with the third one. So Jennifer, why don't you share those with us?
Okay, I'm going to tackle the first 2 P's of our 3 P's, which is purpose and people. You know, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, reading a lot of articles, and just in my discussions with churches. And I think we would all agree that we are living in unprecedented times, and unprecedented in terms of how culture's changing. We're living in a post-Christian world. Unlike times of other generations, culture's changing, which is affecting our churches. And I think COVID has just accelerated some problems that were already existing. And so we have challenges as ministers that were not challenges in years past. And so my 2 P's are purpose. Purpose and our mission never change. Jesus is still and always will be our Savior. He still died for our sins and was resurrected. So the gospel message never changes. So our purpose never changes, but people are changing. And that's our next P, is people. So culture's changing, people are changing. This generation is changing. This is this Gen Z and millennial generation. They're moving away from the church. And so we have to kind of take a new look at how we do ministry. So the mission never changes, but the vision does sometimes. So I read a book recently by Todd Bolsinger called Canoeing the Mountains. Has anybody read that perchance? Does it sound familiar? I highly recommend it. Canoeing the Mountains. It was written pre-pandemic, but the strategy is right on point for where we are in culture today in ministry. And in this book, he says, growing churches will focus less on gathering and more on connecting. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Growing churches will focus less on gathering and more on connecting. So he further states we're going to miss opportunities for growth if we only focus on the people that come inside the building. So I would say that, emphasizing again, our purpose hasn't changed, but people have changed. So casting new vision to reach the unchurched means we need to find new ways for connection. I think that's a key here. And I think all the individuals we have asked to join us today have some innovative ideas on how to connect with families, with people, with the unchurched, with their community. And so I'm excited about these possibilities, and we just wanted to share these ideas with you to see, maybe this is a possibility for your community. So my two P's, purpose and people. Purpose hasn't changed, but people have. So Corey's going to talk about the third P.
Yeah, the third P is just programs, and the programming, and excuse me, and some of the things that we'll talk about, some of the things that you're thinking about, you're going to create a new program for it. It's going to be a new thing. It's going to be a new event. But there's also, especially with some of the things that we're going to talk about today, there's in that is existing programs, using your Sunday school, using your Bible study, using your Wednesday night, using your worship services, using things that are already in place to leverage so that you can do some new things. And so that, when you say you're going to start this new project or new program, sometimes people may not get on board, but when you say, hey, we're going to do this thing, it's going to be an extension of what we're doing in worship. We're going to tie it back to worship. And that purpose and people and programs, they all kind of work together to understand, like, what event are we doing and who is this for? What is our purpose that we want to accomplish? And then how are we going to get it done? If you're doing an outreach event, you could do it at 7:00 on a Sunday morning, but I don't know if you'd be that successful as it would be when you really want to get people to come to your church in a prime time that they would want to be there, during the week, at night, whatever that looks like. So just think about those things, and does the program really line up for that? And I think that that'll help you as you frame that, no matter what size church you are, no matter where you are in Texas or beyond. Those things are going to help to kind of frame how you do your family ministry activities. So Jennifer, can you introduce our first presenter today, and then
Yes,
let them go from there?
I'd be happy to. Our first presenter is John Alexander. I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share because I have some slides to show you here. You'll bear with me for a second. John is the kids pastor we don't want to go to Kathy's yet. Okay. Hold on, bear with me. This is why technology is not friendly to children's ministers. This is not what we do. We love kids. Okay.
You did it.
John Alexander is the kids pastor at Parkway Fellowship. I've known John for several years now. His mother-in-law used to be my ministry assistant. So we have connections in more ways than just ministry, but also through family and previous work experiences. So John did something really innovative a few months ago that I just wanted to ask him to share about regarding a kind of a drive-through experience for families. So I don't want to steal his thunder. So John, if you would, go ahead and tell us about your Noah's Ark experience.
Yeah, hey, thank you, Jennifer and Corey, for inviting me today. So I know when we talk about purpose and the people that we're connecting with and what those programs look like, I know we all tend to fall into the rut sometimes of doing what we've always done because let's be honest, that's easier. There's, a system to our week. There's, the piece of I know what's coming. And so today, to start with our time together, I just wanted to think about the word creativity for a minute. Okay. Creativity is very interesting because for many of us, when we think of the word creativity, we don't actually think of ourselves as creative people. Most creative people, you can tell because when you walk in their office, it is a mess. There is stuff everywhere. They don't file squat. They can't put anything up. Okay. The people on your team or in your staff or in your life that are creative because they're for someone who's a perfectionist, they're hard to get along with. Okay. But here's what's interesting about creativity. When we look at what God has done in creation, when we look at people, when we look at the way our Lord has created different personalities and how he brings the different parts of the church together to work as one, we see his creativity throughout his church. And so I use the word creativity because when it came to this last year with COVID, a lot of us found a halt in ministry that was very different. We weren't meeting in person. We couldn't fall back onto the things that we'd always been doing. And it challenged us to think outside the box and to be creative. And so I had the privilege of having one of my team members who's on my kids' staff with me come up to me and just say, hey, of course she came up to me by Zoom. Okay. Came up to me and just said, hey, the Lord's laying something on my heart. I feel like families, because they can't be on campus, they still need something from us other than just checking in to see how they're doing. There's families who are struggling with, how do I lead? The church has always done that, and I'm thankful that we're going to get to other things during this Zoom time together with Jason and others who are going to talk through what are some of those at-home pieces. But for us, we realized, families were closed in a box at home, and how do we give them an environment that's safe, but still come alongside them? And so this team member, Abby, just said, hey, I really think the Lord is asking us to bring the Bible alive for families. And so she brought this idea. She wrote out this script of what she would, have Noah say. But then she just said, how do we do this? What do we do? And it was so amazing to watch the Lord bring in different team members, different staff members, different conversations. And we just watched the creativity begin to flow with just about anything we could think of. And so I'm going to ask Jennifer, if you can, I'm going to ask you to put up, there's an overhead map. That's just a simple sketch. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So this is a Google map of our property. I literally just pulled it into my iPad and took a pencil and traced over the top of it. So if you think I'm really good at drawing to scale, I just am good at tracing. Okay. And so you see our building in the darker pieces. We have a bunch of portables behind our main building. And then we have this parking lot that kind of swoops in an L shape. And so that's our property that we had to work with. And we decided, you know what, let's go ahead and see if we can make this story come to life. So as we talked through the story, we realized, there were some key components. The world was full of anger. And so we're like, okay, let's write that down. Noah was given an instruction and he obeyed. Okay, let's write that down. He brought a bunch of animals. That had to have been an interesting aspect to this whole story. Let's write that down. The darkness, the fear of the unknown, what's going to happen, God closing them in the ark. Let's write that down. And we just went through the story and walked through each piece of it. What are the main pieces? And really, Abby's script led the whole thing. And in a nutshell, long story short, we ended up creating a drive-through experience that allowed families to stay in their car in a safe environment. We had our media team help us with recording and things like that. We were able to bring those pieces alive along the way. I am encouraged by organizations like Group who care about hands-on ministry in the classroom, or the Rethink team, who are very creative in some of the stuff they do in large group environments and that kind of thing. And again, I don't necessarily consider myself a creative person, but as a collective whole, we were able to dream up things like having a drone fly in the olive branch and it just hovered above the hood of the car. Having balloons to create rainbow, an exit that you drive under. The whole thing was listened to as families came in, and I'd be happy if anybody's interested in walking through the details of it. I've already sent this to many churches who've seen it. I'll be happy to walk you through kind of that whole process of how we did that. But it just helped me recognize, as a staff member who a lot of times feels like the weight is on my shoulders, I was able to recognize that God brought the creativity of a lot of people. A gentleman in our church who used to be in radio, he's the voice that we use. One guy on our staff sat there and edited music and stuff for me. It was just really neat to watch the whole thing come together. So I think we have a couple pictures. We had stations along the way. So here's Noah and his station. Station one was actually people fighting. The video didn't come through today, but people just with water balloons tagging each other, because it was an August day. It was ridiculously hot in Houston, Texas. And so anything we could use water-wise worked. Station two that you see beyond Noah there is just, hey, how big is the ark? And so we floated a balloon up high enough to represent the height of the ark. And then we had a balloon way back in the back of the parking lot so they could look in the rearview mirror and see the length of the ark. And let's see if I think there's another picture of maybe the rainbow. I can't remember what all I put on here. Yep. So this is what it looked like driving through at the end. And then to conclude, we just sent home a package of follow-up questions for parents, little goodies, like the animals came chew by chew. It was just animal crackers for the kiddos to eat in the car. Anything we could think of that represented those 7 stations and gave families an opportunity to do that. What was interesting about this event was it was the first time a lot of our families had been back on campus since we'd closed. And so you're talking 5 months later, and just to see smiling faces through glass and kids waving and excited to be there. It took a lot of volunteers on our end. But again, when it comes to creativity, our goal isn't just to recreate what someone else has done. Our goal is to say, okay, Lord, what are you leading us to do? And how can we think outside the box to do it? The number of times we've taught the story of Noah, I can't tell you how many, but to do it in a creative way, to do it in a way where, you know, it just shows what the church can do together when we incorporate people around us to do so. Like these 2 ladies here that you see in the picture right here, they're just volunteers that we said, hey, we want to put this on. They were like, hey, we'll be there for you. So I just want to encourage you to be creative in how you're doing programming, no matter what time of year it is, and think about where your people are, like we did with ours, and then you'll be able to meet them and meet a need that they have, and they're going to learn something about the relationship with God in the process.
John, I'd like to add, I did see the video of, it kind of looked like a car wash that they were going through the storm when the rain hit. And that was just so close. Could you describe that experience?
Yes. So to represent the darkness, we actually took a tent similar to what you see in the picture here, but it was a long 3-section tent. So a car could fit in it. And then we just covered it in thick black plastic that we got from Home Depot. Then there were teenage guys inside because they loved this part. They got to hose the car off with water hoses as Noah was sitting and talking about his family being shut in the ark and the darkness and the unknown of the storm and feeling the rocking of the boat. And so they're sitting on bumpers and shaking cars. And my family, the video that I sent that didn't come through today was my family sitting in it. And we're all laughing. And I did learn something though, and Jennifer, you know this, I did learn that when you ask teenage boys to help with water stuff, you need to tell them to keep their shirts on. Okay, so that's just a freebie for everybody. You know, that if you don't look far enough ahead, you find out why your teenage daughter wants to go through that section of the event again. No, we're not going to do that. And I will tell them to go put their shirts on. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. They loved it. And that part of it, kids got a lot out of. So.
That's great. Thank you, John. That's so clever and creative and really meeting culture where it's at, meeting our community where it's at. So that sounds like it was a lot of fun. So thank you for sharing your ideas with us today. That's wonderful. Okay, Corey, I think you're going to introduce Jason next.
Yeah. So Jason Bankhead is the family pastor or next gen pastor. What's family pastor? There you go. At the Avenue Church in Waxahachie. And Jason and I have been friends for a long time, back to our college days. And you know, what I appreciate about Jason is the way that he leads his staff, the other people on his staff, the other ministry leaders there. And then kind of what John was saying, and just being creative and trying to figure out ways to do things a little bit different. And so he's going to share just what they did at Christmas, and try to help families kind of take the Advent season home with them. So Jason, will you explain this to us?
Yeah, I'd love to. We almost staff at the Avenue Church in Waxahachie, and we don't we haven't been very traditional in a lot of different things. We really, for our Christmas seasons, have been trying to keep it just kind of a traditional, nostalgic kind of a thing. And so we had done some stuff with Advent in the past, but just decided last year was probably the first year that we got everybody on board, from babies all the way through every life group and everything, and families. And so we did a thing, just Advent at the Avenue. And it's probably one of the best things we've done as a church is in full alignment. It's very, I think it's very reproducible. What we did was one thing that I enjoyed about it. So we with the creative team who helps plan sermons, our pastor and a few other staff members that helped plan kind of what the Christmas season was going to look like. We went with Advent at the Avenue, and as a family ministry team, we were able to come in and speak to how we feel that this could be carried outside of just the service. And so we did for each of the 4 Sundays, I guess 3 Sundays, then leading up to, we do Christmas Eve services as well. So we handled one theme at a time. And so we started with, I think, hope, then joy, then love, and finished with peace at our Christmas Eve services. So what we did prior to that, we kind of advertised it beginning the weekend before Thanksgiving that this was coming, like this is our Christmas series. We had kind of kicked around different ways to do it. We wound up pre-purchasing, I think 500 or 600 candle kits, so 4 candles each, for each family, and thinking, well, that'll probably get us through. They were gone within the first weekend. People loved it so much, so we had to order more. So we knew we were kind of onto something. Actually, they were gone after Thanksgiving weekend, kind of in preparation for it. So we prepackaged candle kits, and you can see those are the candles in that picture right there, just 3 purple, 1 pink. We tied it with a little ribbon deal, and then had devotionals created. So you can go to one of the next pictures. It'll show a family or a kid holding. Yeah, so there you go. So like there's the hope one. It was just a real simple, one of our staff members wrote it just on hope. Each one, they were designed for kids to be able to read with their families. So the things I enjoyed about this element, and we're doing something pretty similar again this year, one is it created alignment among our ministry team. So from pre-K to K through 5th, and then even our students in our midweek services, the curriculum we use lined right up with our birth through 5th graders, as in we arranged, I think our curriculum went out of order of how we did it, Hope, Love, Joy, and Peace. So we just rearranged the curriculum in the order that we were doing it. So mom and dad would hear about it in the service, and then the kids would hear about it in their time. And so then they would be able to take home and talk about hope. And the kids will have recognized they lit a candle in each of our other services. So they lit a candle in their service. Mom and dad had a candle lit in their service. They could go home and talk about it. It's easily readable. Most of the time, the kids let out in it. We're in a church that reaches a lot of people who may not have grown up in church. So the challenge of getting moms and dads to take stuff home and to lead out in is a challenge. And so this was kind of a layup. This was a very simple, you sit down for dinner one time this week. You hand it to your kid to read if you're nervous to read. It even had a prayer you could read or you could pray it. And so it was, the kids wound up loving getting involved in it. So each of the kids would learn in their service. We also, during our service time, now this takes more than just a family or kids ministry, but in our weekend service, we had a small video testimony each week of some family that their story went a little bit with the theme of how they had found hope in Jesus or how they had found joy in their journey. And so that was highlighted in a video form in the worship service, and that family would come on stage during that video and they would be a part of lighting that week's candle in the service. So that was kind of cool to see the people who were, in the story, but that can also be done with just a testimony. Now, that could have been done with a testimony time, but with our multiple services, we just kind of wanted to get the video and we could make sure we knew exactly how long it would last as well. And so that was kind of a cool thing. Kids were coming home, had lit a candle in each of our services to mom and dad who had done the exact same thing, with a devotional deal that asked questions, kind of guided questions on how to get your kids talking about that theme and what that had to do with Jesus and Christmas. And so that was, so what we would do is we had the candles for sale. I think we sold it for $5. We had thought of doing like links to Amazon and all that kind of stuff, but we really have found the value. And if we have it available, if before they get to their car, we can get it in their hands or make it very tangible for them to get, they're probably not going to finish the order at Amazon. Most likely they're not going to run by a store. And so we really wanted to we thought of digital sending, it's cheaper to do digital to send that. We thought giving a kid that to take home with them is they'll help hold mom and dad accountable than something that's downloaded on a phone. So we went ahead and did it with the Printable Deals. Each week they would be able to, they could pick up, I think, the stack of 4 at one time, but we wound up having extras every week in case if somebody had shown up for the first time to be able to take home. And so it was a great thing for us. We're going to do it again, and I think for the kids, the families, it was a pretty special time. I wish we could have found candle holders. That's what people were having the most trouble finding, and did not realize that those are not super easy to find to hold that type candle. So if you consider doing something like this, maybe find a candle that there's often sizes for, and you can fit 4 of them in it. And so that we had wound up people asking, "Are y'all selling anything that'll hold these?" And we didn't. And but overall, it was good. It was also it was just easy as a church, even from a marketing standpoint through social media. They tagged Advent at the Avenue, and people would share pictures. That's where I grabbed all these pictures off of home pictures. These are all that were taken in home by people in the church. And so it was kind of nice to see that story continuing to be told, as the weeks were going on. And so it's cheap. It didn't cost us much money at all to do all that. A very cool thing for our entire church, getting on the same page.
It's interesting, Jason, you said that about the candle holders. And I noticed that there was 3 different candle holders in the 3 pictures that you showed. Mm-hmm. To me, that's kind of cool. Like, as long as you can find a candle you can find a candle holder for it, but that kind of, you don't have the expense at that point of providing a candle holder, and you're kind of putting that back on the family to do that. But yet then they can go get creative, pick them out together. And that could even be one of your activities is, to do that. But I think the key there is putting that physical candle in their hands, because you're right, they're going to be more accountable to do it. Kids are going to keep their parents accountable to do it. So, yeah.
And we did. I forgot about this from a digital aspect. We did send out a Merry Christmas digital thing on the day of through Instagram and Facebook. So on Christmas Day, that if they wanted, we gave them a devotional if they wanted to participate with their family on that morning. Like, hey, here's Luke 2, and here's questions to ask, and here's things to highlight. So I tried to equip parents on that as well. And so it was a win. We had some moms and dads, it was the first time they had prayed in front of their kids. It was the first time they'd ever done a devotional type thing in front of their kids. And so it was what we're aiming for all year. And so it was cool to have them do that.
Yeah. Did you have the physical piece with the devotionals? Did you have that as a digital thing where people could, they had the candles, but if they had that digitally, or did you just have that as a physical?
We were physically, if you were there, we had a lot of people online with COVID and that kind of stuff that didn't participate. So every week we would put it on that day, either in the comments of our live feed on Facebook, or then we would just put it as a post on Facebook so that people could follow up and they could have that in a digital format as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's great.
If anybody's interested, if they want to send me an email or reach out, then I can send the devotional stuff. There's nothing copyrighted. It's just pastor of our church said I'll write it. So
that's great. As we're thinking about purpose people programs, one of the things that Jason said was, we wanted a layup for our parents. And your church may have a culture where their families are doing devotionals together, and that's great, but that's not most churches and that's not most families. And so to give them something like this, that they can do at home, and that it's just like a layup, it's just something that they can do easily and not have to put a lot into it, gets them a lot more closer to the point where they are doing some more devotionals and praying it as a family at home. So our first one was about coming to the church, kind of an outreach as a family, coming and going through it. And then Jason shared one about what you could do at home. And then now Jennifer's going to introduce our third presenter to talk about some other options.
Okay, thank you, Corey. You know what I love about all three of these presentations is the family component to it. It involves the whole family. It gets them together. It's teaching parents how to be the disciplers in the home, the Deuteronomy 6 model of, discipleship within the home and spiritual formation. And so I like that we're pulling all these together. And so this is so creative and engaging and not intimidating for our parents to participate in, to read a devotional and to light a candle at home, to go through a drive-through experience at their church facility, and Kathy has several events that she hosts on a regular basis. And I've just enjoyed watching her journey and how she brings families together. So I'm going to introduce Kathy Smith. She is the minister to children at New Hope First Baptist Church. And she's going to tell us about an event she hosted on site at her church for the whole family. So Kathy, would you get us started?
Hi. So we had, because of COVID last year, we were trying to think outside the box and think about ways that we could interact with families and still be safe. And so had several families I spoke with, and they were like, oh, it'd be really nice to get together, but, we're really still being super cautious. So we came up with this idea to have Christmas at New Hope, which is the next slide. Okay, so we had a 3-touch experience last year. We had the Christmas nights, which was community, and that was outdoors, and I'm going to explain that. Music celebration was narrative songs, and that was actually in our worship center, spaced out quite a bit to let people enjoy that, and still be able to wear their mask and to be able to participate, but not be afraid of getting COVID. And then we had the candlelight service. And so then the next slide, we'll talk about the Christmas nights. This was a festive outdoor movie experience for our community. We did this as a church-wide event. We are going to do it again this year. Last year, we did it for 4 nights, and it was extremely well attended. This time we're going to do it 1 night because it was a lot of work. And we had families that had not been out of their house for a long time come to this, and they were very appreciative that they could come and enjoy something that they could still, be safe from catching something. So they really enjoyed that. So we, on the next slide. Okay, so these are the details of it. We had a jazz band that was playing. We had food trucks where they were able, when they were able to sign up online before the event, and they were able to order their food. So when they walked up to the food trucks, they could just pick up their food. We had a Christmas movie with a huge screen. We had lots of lights in the tree. We had a photo area for the families to be able to take their selfies, put their phone in this holder with a ring light and take their picture. We serve hot chocolate. We had lawn seating, and we had blankets and chairs. So we had different areas depending on what they brought. And we also took donations. There was no charge for coming to this, but we took donations, and it was to help with our food bank. So, and we also had a table where if they wanted to know more about our church, we had a package that we gave out with our information about our church. Lots and lots and lots of community people came that we have never, ever seen before. So it was really, we had more community people come than we had our own church people, which is what we really wanted. And it was just really, really neat. People would even pass by and see the lights and wonder what was going on. So they would stop by and see. So, so it was really, we're on kind of a main road, which it gets a lot of traffic. So it ended up being a really neat experience, and a neat way to get to know families. And a lot of families said they really appreciated us doing something like that. So, okay, the next slide. Okay, so these are just some pictures of it. You can see where we got the jazz band playing ahead of time, and we've got a couple of singers, and we had some door prizes, because you have to have door prizes, right? And so that was our incentive. Put your information on this card and you get a chance for a door prize. So, and as you can see in the middle one, people kind of sitting in the lawns, and then you can see the food truck. So, and then the next one. And then here's just some more pictures where it's hot chocolate, the kids, the family sitting on the blanket, and then you see them sitting on the in the chairs. And you see this is a pretty far off picture, but the screen was really huge. And it was just so well attended. It was so neat to get to visit with so many of the families that we had never visited before. As an alternative, if you don't want to go to such a huge endeavor or do such a huge thing, that something we've done in the past that didn't cost us hardly anything was a movie night in the gym or the worship center. And we had cookies and hot chocolate and popcorn. And you can also combine with other churches the big event and make it less costly if you needed to do that. So we've done things that have been really small, where we've had just the movie night in the gym. And then this last year, we did something pretty large for the community. So there's so many options. So, if a small church doesn't have much funds, there are so many things that you can do. Just like John said, be creative. So, and always, like you, John, get a team together, and that God blesses us with so many different creative people that helps maybe our idea, or just helps our idea just bloom. And that's what I love about God, that He brings us people to help create things for His glory.
Kathy, I have a question for you. The movie screen that you got for the outdoor movie,
Yes.
You said you had rented that. Can you tell us about how you did that?
One of the inflatable places, where you get the bounce houses and things, that's where we rented the inflatable movie thing. Last year, we also did, instead of doing a fall festival type thing, we had a movie night, and we had two parking lots that had movies going on, because we had so many people want to come, and it was a drive-in movie. And so we ended up renting 2 screens for that. So those were really popular, especially during the time where people were being very cautious.
So that was relatively easy for setup. They would just come set it up for you.
Oh yes, just set up for us, and we didn't have to do anything. And then of course we had to set up for the band and all the hot chocolate and everything, but very really not a whole lot for us to have to set up overall.
That's great. It looked like some of the kids were wearing their pajamas too, so they just really made it a family night and a special event.
Yes, it was really neat. It was pretty cool, but it wasn't raining. So they were bundled up, and they were just they were so glad to be out and around other people. It was really a neat thing.
That's good. I love how this was an outreach, and how people from the community driving by could see the lights you put in the trees. It was very visible, and which gives you another opportunity to invite others to come because of what they see. And John's thing too, very visible outside the facility of your church. So thank you, Kathy, for sharing that. I'm going to turn to Corey to instruct us on our next steps here.
How long have we been doing this Zoom thing and I can't even unmute myself? So I'm I've got some questions, not a lot of questions, but I just want just time for us to ask questions about each other, what we've done. But before we get to that, Julie, I hate to put you on the spot, but I know that you guys are creative in things that y'all are doing in your children's ministry. Is there something that you could share with us, something that's worked for you guys at Louisville?
We too did the movie night last year as just a way to get families out and see one another, connect with those families that we hadn't connected with in the past. And we showed The Star, which is a good Christmas movie, and had a great attendance. We have also we've had run the gamut of family activities. We long time ago, we had families put together, write their favorite Christmas memories, and they gave those to us. We compiled a book that we gave out to families for the holidays to use in their Advent celebration. We have, this church has done the Joshua tree, which is something I'd like to bring back, and made ornaments for a Joshua tree there in the church. But I love the idea of connecting all age groups. I think, that's the healthiest version of family ministry, is when everybody can participate and find out what it means for their area. So those are just some things that we've tried.
Yeah, that's great. I knew you would have some if I asked you. So thank
Yes,
you
sir,
for
thank
sharing
you.
those. But if there's some questions, just from each other as we've kind of gone through that. One of the things that and Julie, if you guys did this as well, or Jennifer, in your experience, sometimes you do events and you do the events and you just have the event and you have people come in and there's a visibility thing. And then sometimes you do it intentionally to say, how can we gather some prospect names, or how can we actively follow up? In any of these things that you guys have done, was there any kind of follow-up with people, the people that drove by and came? Obviously you have to register them in some way and get their name, but in any of the outreach, and we could even go beyond if you've done something for Easter or done something at different holidays, because any of that would apply if we did something through the Christmas holidays. But anybody done anything that's effective in how you follow up with people that have participated in some of these things?
Corey, some of the events that I would host when I was on church staff that I would do for my church, I would also duplicate and do again, like on a Saturday or a weekend or a Sunday afternoon, and invite the community to come. We did that one year for our Easter program. We did a walkthrough, I forget what it was called, Journey with Jesus or Journey to the Cross. And we were already doing it for our church. So all the setup was already ready to go. And so we sent out flyers to the schools, got permission through central office, printed 1,500 flyers for all the elementary schools. We didn't have a huge turnout, but there were people who came just because they were curious and they were looking for an event for the holidays. So that was, worthwhile and something that I was already doing. So and thankfully I had volunteers who would say, I'll come again and do this on a Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning. So sometimes some of the built-in programs that you have, you can duplicate and do it again and invite the community to join as well.
So in our case, our big push with the community happens over the fall with our Halloween. And this year it lands on Halloween. Usually we do it the Sunday prior, but we went ahead and made that choice. But the thing we're doing this year is, like Kathy was saying, having the registration card with information that we can follow up with them. And but our new thing is going to be to give those names of folks who are not plugged into an assimilation team who can write cards, even just a short handwritten note and say, so glad you were here, check out our website kind of thing. We'd love to hear your story and connect with you. So that, and then I also thought we've done throughout the year, and you could do it for any emphasis or sermon series. We've done worship to go bags, and it's like on a postcard size. You write out a family devotional and you give them a craft or something small, and you put it in just a brown paper sack, and families get that as they leave, so that it can be a direct application right there over lunch or whatever. So just an idea.
That's good. Yeah, that's that idea of existing programs, just kind of going just that next little step to add something on top of that, especially if you're bivocational or you're a volunteer lay leader, that you've got other things going on, you've got a full-time job. Some of these ideas may seem kind of overwhelming to you, and so that's where the idea that the team comes in, and the team of especially if you're going to do one of these big projects, of getting that team together, because they can be the biggest cheerleaders for your event, the biggest promotion for your event, once they feel like they're on board. And it's not just your event that you think, I've got to do all this and get it all together. Then you kind of go, well, I hope it works. Once you get that team on board, they will come alongside you and they will make sure that it's a success. So that's using those things. Anybody else have a question or anybody else use outreach, follow up and outreach?
Yeah, we have some big events through Easter and Fall Carnival. We tried to collect information one time, like a pre-register for something, and it wasn't a big win of trying to. That took more energy than providing a great experience for people when on our campus. And so what we really just decided is through our Easter egg hunt and a big Fall Carnival that we have is just we're trying to just give something to somebody, not ask for anything in return. Like, hey, this is our gift to the community and to you. We're not going to ask in return. But with that, we continue to reiterate to our entire staff, family ministry staff, everybody, that I would say on our Fall Carnival, the one thing we did do, we didn't ask for information, but one year we were just trying to measure its effectiveness. Our goal is community outreach for it. So we decided to have our people in the church, you had to have a wristband to get in. Well, for the 4 Sundays leading up to it, we said, hey, go get your wristband or register online. We'll have you a wristband packet whenever you come up, when you come to church, and we'll alphabetically set them up. So the goal in that was how many people are coming from our church and how many people are coming from the community. Because if it's 90% from our church, we're going to quit doing it. If it's 90% community, we definitely need to keep doing it. And so we gave away 1,500 wristbands in the 4 weeks leading up to it and had 2,500 left, gave all of those away 30 minutes into the carnival and ran out. So we began realizing the people who showed up are people who were not in our church in the last month. So that was one thing that we try to do, just as measure the effectiveness of why we were trying to do that. But here's what we tell our team is people aren't going to come to church right after the Fall Carnival. But our goal is that they've had a good experience on our campus. They've actually gotten to know the campus a little bit by being on it. So that's a hurdle that's kind of out of the way now. But then one of the big things is when life does happen to them, they're going to think of 1 or 2 different churches they may have been on campus of. And the importance of every single Sunday is like, it doesn't matter if we had a great Fall Carnival, they had a great experience. If they try to drop their 2-year-old off at a class who doesn't have a teacher yet that's there or is not kind, it doesn't matter. And so we've got to be prepared for every single Sunday following these things, that we're at our best. And I was on the board at I still am on the board at the YMCA, so I was partly responsible for this. But we did a big Santa run here. And I remember the first year they did it, there were 500 Santas running in a big event, which was incredible. Monday morning, that was a Saturday, Monday morning when they opened back up, nobody showed up to open it for a 5:30 a.m. class. So there's 20 people outside the doors. And so I'm like, it doesn't matter what success we had Saturday. like nobody was there to open the door, and it just made everybody mad. And so that's with the big events. We tried to collect data at one point. It just wasn't very productive, and we didn't know what to do with it, to be honest with you too. We didn't think a lot of people wanted emails, regarding that. And so but really just try to make an incredible wow experience while they're on our campus, and then hopefully we create that same type of experience on a weekly basis, just to catch them when life does bring them to our doors. So yeah.
I know when you were saying that, it made me think of something. I know of a church that during their fall carnival, they had the big blow up, games and bounce houses and stuff like that. But for your kid to get a wristband to go in that section of their carnival, the parents had to fill out a waiver, and the waiver had their information on it. And then, because we filled one out, we went to it, it wasn't our church. And so I filled one out, and partly I wanted to see, what are you going to do with it? Same thing, like what would we do with it if we got it? Yeah. And they emailed us a gift card to a coffee house in the town, and then an invitation to small group. And then they probably saw that I was on staff somewhere else, and so they were like, he's not a prospect. But I thought that was great. That was a way that they, parents are like, well, your kid's sitting there going, I want to get on the bounce house. Yeah. And they're like, well, you can't get on it without a wristband. The only way to get a wristband is to give us your information. So, but they did have a plan of what they wanted to do with it. And I think that's important too.
That's good. Yeah.
Any other questions about these projects, or do you have a follow-up? Actually, Kathy, do you have something? I'm sorry.
Yes, I wanted to say there's a couple. We emailed after the event. We didn't have a gift card, which is an excellent idea, so I have to remember that. But we did say how grateful they were to come. But not only that, I think the big thing for us is that our staff was there every week for those 4 weeks, and we had a welcome team. So each family got a personal touch. Somebody talked to them. It wasn't just, what is your name? And I'm glad you're here, and go sit down. It was, what church do you attend? Or, did you just move here? Or how did you hear about us? Just kind of talking with them. And I was so blessed on talking with some of the families. We wore Santa hats, and we were freezing, and we were being silly, and they the families just ate it up. They just ate it up. And I think this year I probably will dress up as some character, just because kids love that. So it's something, and just ideas on how to connect with them, because if you actually call them by name, and if you actually talk to them, they're more than likely going to come back than if they just came to something and didn't really have any interaction with anybody.
I've got something for you. In a very similar way. I know each one of our churches have an organization process of what that looks like to assimilate a first-time guest or a second-time guest in that piece. One of our steps here for our first-time guests is as long as you can get a name and a phone number, which we do obviously when we're capturing families and kids and they have to check in, but we just send them a quick text, but we do it by video. We just film a quick video that says something like, hey, Howington family, thank you so much for visiting with us this past Sunday. Sure hope that you enjoyed the start of our new series, Starting Over New. So I just want to invite you guys back again this Sunday. And in fact, I'm filming this here at the pre-K check-in area. Stop by and shake my hand and let me welcome you for a second time, okay? Until then, you guys have a great week. It's a 25-second video, but what's interesting is because of the personal piece of it, where you're talking directly to them, the amount of return from those families is like nearly 35 to 40% of those individuals coming back a second time. And we haven't seen anything that successful since we started that. And so that piece of it, we know the demographic of the people we're reaching. We know the mobile phones that they're carrying around are the latest technology, to do everything by phone. Like, we know that's where we're reaching. So it may not necessarily work in every church environment, but for our particular families on the west side of Houston, a very growing, affluent area, it works great. Anything we can do connecting by phone. So that's typically how we try to follow up.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And that's something anybody can do if you've got a smartphone. Like you guys probably, go ahead.
We split it up, like, 8 staff members grabs that list of 35 first-time guests from this Sunday. We get 3 each. Some of them are family pairs. So, I'm really only sending maybe, at Easter time, I think I sent 6 videos to 6 different family units, and that was split up, with other staff members, so it's not a big time piece. But the personalization, the number of times people text you back and say, man, we loved it. My kid loves second grade, in the hideout. We can't wait to be there. Great. So glad to hear that. It turns into a text conversation that I've actually seen follow up past that, where weeks later, someone will text and go, hey, Pastor John, and then there's a question that follows, something about the church. How do I get plugged in a small group? They suddenly have someone that they can connect with, that they feel like they can text with also. So it kind of kills 3 birds with one stone. So
that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Again, anybody with a smartphone can do that. You don't have to have a text service that you are using to text all your visitors. That's just dividing up your list and taking it home. And that's a great idea. See, you got first time guests information on this too. Didn't even know you were going to get that. So, well, I want to respect our time today, and I thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And Julie, thank you for stepping in there. Julie is at First Baptist Louisville, and thank you for stepping in and giving us some ideas, even though we didn't even prepare you for it. And so if you want to get any of these ideas, if you're watching this on a recording, because that's our hope, is that this, the other people will look at this, and if you want to get in touch with any of these people, and you can't find their information online, you probably could find it just by Googling them and their churches. Get in contact with Jennifer or I. You're seeing this on the Texas Baptist webpage, so go to the Discipleship page and then click on Youth and Family or Childhood Ministry, and you'll find our contact information there. And then we'd be happy to connect you with any of these people that are on here and the resources that they have been able to share with us. But I want to thank all of you for helping and being a part of this. And so I'm going to ask Jennifer, my teammate, my coworker, my friend, to close us out. And if you'll just close us in a word of prayer today, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. And thank you, presenters. And thank you, Julie, for coming. It's been great. I've gained some new ideas, and this is something we can share with other churches and even our home churches as well. So thank you. Well, let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for the privilege of serving you. Lord, I thank you for each minister on this call, Lord, each church that they represent. Lord, I thank you for the creative and innovative ideas that they have used to engage not only culture, but also to bring families together. Lord, I just pray for more of that in our churches. I pray for more opportunities to engage our culture and to bring families into the fold of our church and to ultimately create more disciples for you. Lord, I just thank you so much for the opportunities we have. I pray that we would seize every moment that's available to us. Lord, just bless each of these ministers and bless their churches in a special way. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, guys. You all have a
Thank
great
y'all.
rest.